Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
A single leaf fluttering at the edge of a branch carries more intelligence than we often dare to believe. Not the kind that speaks or solves equations, but a quiet precision, a patience sculpted by millions of years. If you stare long enough at its veins, you'll notice something, a rhythm, a symmetry, a story told in silence. This is where geometry lives, tucked into the green breath of photosynthesis, coded into the very shape of survival. Look at the way it unfolds in the spring, not randomly but with sequence. The angles between leaves along a stem, they do not repeat carelessly. They often follow a hidden law, an invisible ruler called the golden angle. About 137.5 degrees, this number shows up again and again in spirals, in sunflowers, in pine cones, and in the elegant leap of a fern uncurling. Botanists once puzzled over why, until they noticed what nature seemed to already know. This pattern lets each leaf drink its own sunlight without shadowing the others. Its efficiency disguised as beauty. Let's pause beneath a tree. Let the soft light slip through its canopy. That dappled brightness, the way it filters between leaves, it's no accident, it's code. Scientists call it phyllotaxis, the arrangement of leaves on a stem. Whether in spirals, whorls, or alternate ladders, each leaf's position is part of a master plan. Fibonacci numbers often guide this choreography. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, the sum of the two before. It may sound like simple arithmetic, but it blooms into spirals that reach out like galaxies. Imagine the DNA within each seedling, instructing not only how tall the tree should grow, but how its leaves should lean, how its edges should fold. There's a logic behind the lobes of a maple, the needles of a spruce, the soft roundness of a lilac's leaves. Even the jagged cuts in a dandelion leaf carry function, helping water trickle downward toward thirsty roots. Nothing is wasted, nothing is guessed. This quiet geometry whispers to more than just sunlight. It whispers to water, too. The edges of a leaf, what botanists call margin, are shaped to gather dew, to wick away excess, to breathe moisture without drowning. You can see it in lotus leaves, so perfectly designed that water cannot cling to them. A droplet will bounce like mercury, collecting dust and rolling it away, self-cleaning, self-preserving. Engineers now study this and call it the lotus effect, copying it into waterproof clothing and self-cleaning glass. But the leaf came first. Even decay has a pattern. In autumn, chlorophyll breaks down and leaves reveal their skeletons. The veins remain longest, those quiet highways that once carried sugar and light. If you hold a dried leaf to the sun, you'll see the framework underneath, like the blueprint of a city, streets and alleys planned in advance. Nothing in nature's design is accidental. Not the way a blade of grass leans, not the slight twist of a eucalyptus leaf that lets wind pass without snapping its stem. Some trees, like the ginkgo, have leaves shaped like tiny fans. Others, like the oak, wear deep lobes like armor. Why such variety? Part of it is defense from wind, from insects, from drought. But part of it is code. Genetic instructions passed down like whispered traditions. Curve this edge here, split this tip in two, double the veins. Mutation plays a part, of course, but only the fittest patterns remain, not the loudest, not the biggest, but the most balanced. Balance is nature's signature. The ratio between the length and width of leaves often falls within the bounds of the golden ratio, a number that seems to please both our eyes and the plants themselves. Artists speak of it. Architects use it. But it was hiding in the forest all along, in the soft silence of the canopy, waiting for us to notice. The ancients noticed. Long before microscopes and DNA sequencing, they observed the symmetry of petals and the spirals of pineapples. Some believed the patterns to be divine. Sacred geometry, they called it evidence of a mind behind the vines. Today, science explains what myth once sang, but the wonder remains. Perhaps it's not either or. Perhaps pattern and poetry live together in the same leaf. Let's walk a little slower now, past ivy curling along a wall, past a clover's 3 leaves, and the rare fourth, past ferns that still unfurl with prehistoric elegance. They are writing stories in code, not with letters, but with length, shape, order, with balance, fractal memory, and the soft breath of sunlight transformed. Each leaf is an algorithm in green, solving for survival, solving for beauty. When we touch it, we are brushing fingers against ancient logic. When we breathe beside it, we are sharing space with living mathematics. And all of it began with one cell, one division, one choice in shape, repeated again and again, passed down in silence, through roots and rain and time. The geometry of leaves is not just a science. It is a lullaby written in light. Now imagine the seasons shifting, but the code remains. The same patterns that cradle spring's new growth also prepare the leaf for its final fall. As summer wanes and daylight slips away, a cascade of signals begins. Chlorophyll fades first, unmasking hidden pigments, amber, crimson, ochre. But even this unraveling follows a script. Cells at the base of the leaf begin to wall themselves off in anticipation, like dancers preparing to bow before the stage goes dark. It's called abscission, a clean farewell, not decay. Enzymes dissolve the bond between stem and branch, releasing the leaf not with violence but with grace. It floats down, guided by its own architecture, spiraling gently to the ground like a whispered goodbye. Down in the soil, that fallen leaf becomes part of something larger. Microbes feast on its carbon-rich layers, decoding the patterns back into elements the tree can drink again. The leaf is not lost, it is translated. Geometry returns to chemistry. The skeleton becomes food. What we call waste, nature calls a cycle. There is no full stop in this system, only a pause, a silence before the pattern resumes. And somewhere in the root tips reaching down and out, the blueprint stirs again. In deserts, the shapes change not for beauty but for breath. Cacti reduce their leaves to spines, minimizing surface area to conserve moisture. Others, like agave, fold their leaves into thick fleshy scrolls, storing water and secrets. But still, the code persists. Spiral phyllotaxis appears again, keeping symmetry intact even in scarcity. It's as if nature cannot help but count, even when survival is at stake, even when the sun burns more than it nourishes. Some leaves twist with a purpose you might never guess. The corn plant, for example, rotates its leaves as they grow, not just randomly but in response to light, wind, and even the pull of gravity. The leaf wants to face the sun not directly but efficiently, gently. Scientists call this heliotropism, and it's guided by tiny changes in pressure, fluid, and cell structure. But to the leaf, it is simply listening, listening to light. Far up in the canopies of rainforests, leaves face a different challenge. Too much moisture, too little light, constant competition. Their leaves grow large and thin, with channels to shed rain quickly. Some form drip tips, elegant points that let water fall like tears, so the leaf doesn't drown. It's a subtle code, written not in letters but in form. Adaptation is not randomness. It is nature debugging itself across millennia. And even now, human minds are only beginning to read these codes. Mathematicians trace fractals in ferns, repeated patterns that scale up and down, infinite complexity from simple rules. Biologists model leaf growth with algorithms, trying to recreate nature's decisions in silico. Architects borrow leaf venation to design stronger buildings with less material. Engineers mimic stomata, the tiny pores on a leaf's surface, to invent smart fabrics that breathe like living tissue. The leaf has become teacher. And what of us? We too are drawn to these patterns. Bobbies reach for leaves before they know words. Artists sketch them without needing instruction. Something about their curves feels right, calming, whole. Perhaps it's because our own bodies echo similar codes, spirals in our ears, branching in our lungs, symmetry in our faces. We are not separate from the leaf's geometry. We are part of its echo. In temples and cathedrals, stained glass windows imitate the veins of leaves, dividing light into story. In mandalas and mosaics, artists unknowingly reflect phyllotaxis, fractals, golden sections. We build what nature already imagined. We shape our sacred spaces with the math of moss and magnolia. And somewhere in that repetition, leaf to window, branch to arch, we find peace. There are stories, too, hidden in the margins. A certain plant in the Amazon, called the dancing plant, responds to sound. Its tiny leaves twitch and shift when exposed to music. Not randomly, but in patterns that repeat. Some believe it's a relic of ancient communication movement as language, code beyond sound. And though it may seem like whimsy, even that motion follows geometric arcs. Imagine sitting in a forest with a notebook, sketching what you see, not just the shape of each leaf, but the way they overlap, the distance between them, the repetition and change. What you're doing is not just art, it's decoding. You're participating in the same observation that built entire fields of science: botany, morphology, ecology. Each drawing is an invitation to know deeper. Sometimes in moments of stillness, a breeze will move through a grove and all the leaves will shimmer as one. Not chaotically, but like a wave, like breath. This too has a name: thigmomorphogenesis, the way plants respond to touch, vibration, movement. Even the wind leaves fingerprints, shaping future growth in response. You see, a leaf is not static. It is dynamic, aware, responsive. It bends to learn. All across Earth, from tundra to tropics, leaves speak in dialects of structure, some broad and flat to capture a fleeting sun, some needle-thin to resist snow, some curled and thick to hoard every drop. And yet beneath the diversity there is unity. Ratios repeat, patterns emerge. The language of growth is spoken in spirals, fractals, golden angles. You don't need a microscope to hear it. You only need time. And so we return to the tree, to the quiet limb with its quiet leaves, each one angled not by accident but by inheritance, each one shaped not by whim but by wisdom. Geometry is not decoration here. It is strategy, memory, design. It is how the tree lives, breathes, and remembers the sun. And as the light fades and the shadows stretch long, the leaves whisper again, not in sound but in structure. They tell of seasons past, of storms endured, of sunlight caught and turned to sugar. They tell of water drawn from dark soil, lifted against gravity. They tell of balance, of code, of being part of something infinitely precise and quietly alive. In the early hush of morning, when dew still clings to blades of grass and the world is wrapped in soft silence, leaves awaken with the sun. They stretch gently toward the light, not with motion we can see, but with readiness. Deep inside, the stomata open, microscopic mouths that breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. They do this quietly, steadily, like a lullaby for the planet. This silent rhythm fuels forests, meadows, jungles, and gardens. And yet the pattern remains hidden, a secret dance of gas and light guided by structure alone. Every breath we take is part of this design. The oxygen in our lungs once passed through a leaf's open pore. The carbon we exhale may soon become a sugar inside a chloroplast. We are not visitors here. We are part of the loop, a cycle as old as the first green cell that rose from water and turned sunlight into life. That cell followed a pattern, just as every leaf since has followed one. Not because it was told to, but because nature remembers what works. Step into a desert and you'll see the pattern adapt again. In hot, arid places, leaves shrink, twist, protect. Some close their stomata during the day, opening only at night when air is cooler. This is called cam photosynthesis, a survival strategy. Even here, where green is rare and heat rules, the geometry continues. Small, thick leaves, often waxy or silver, reflect light, reduce evaporation, preserve balance. It is not just survival, it is math under pressure. Look even closer, past the shape, past the veins, into the leaf cells. Inside are chloroplasts, the green factories of light. Each one orients itself to follow the sun, like dancers shifting across a stage. Within them, thylakoid membranes hold pigments in precise configurations. Electrons leap between molecules, driven by photons. What appears soft and passive is, at the microscopic scale, a festival of energy, all held in place by structure, sequence, and symmetry. This is where the code becomes chemistry. This is where form meets function. When a plant grows in shade, its leaves grow thinner and wider. When it grows in wind, the leaf's base strengthens. If cut, it may sprout new shoots at perfect angles to replace what was lost. These are not guesses. These are responses written in logic. Epigenetics, changes that adjust how genes express themselves, allows the leaf to adapt within its limits. It learns without memory. It evolves within a single lifetime. A leaf, you see, is not just following old code. It is rewriting it, line by line, in quiet response to the world. We too have begun to mimic. In cities, architects study how leaves manage heat and light. Skyscrapers are now built with facades that open and close like stomata, breathing with the rhythm of day. In medicine, veins in leaves inspire microfluidic channels for drug delivery. In solar technology, the branching of leaf veins guides the design of efficient energy grids. Biomimicry, they call it, but truly, it is humility. An admission that the answers were written in leaves long before we asked the questions. In ancient texts, leaves were symbols of healing, of knowledge, of peace. In Genesis, a fig leaf marked shame. In other cultures, olive leaves brought hope, tea leaves told fortunes, laurel leaves crowned the wise. Always they held meaning. Perhaps because deep down we've always known that to hold a leaf is to hold more than matter. It is to hold memory, adaptation, instruction. A page from the book beneath the book. And when winter comes and leaves fall one by one, they do not vanish. They rustle in gutters, gather at doorsteps, dissolve into soil. Their shapes linger in frost, their silhouettes pressed into wet pavement like fossilized thoughts. Even in death, the geometry holds. Each point, each curve, each line remains true, a testament to time and resilience, a reminder that beauty does not end when usefulness fades. Imagine a world without leaves. No forest whispering in wind, no shade in the heat, no rustle in autumn. No breath from photosynthesis, no filter for air, no food for insects. The absence would be more than silence, it would be erasure. And yet we pass them by. We sweep them up, bag them, burn them. We forget that beneath every leaf is a system, a structure, a mind of sorts. Not conscious, perhaps, but purposeful. Designed not by accident, but by inheritance and need. And what of the code itself? Where is it written? In the seed, yes, in the DNA, but also in the world, in the wind that shapes a tree's leaning, in the frost that signals when to shed, in the soil's minerals, the rainfall's rhythm, the sunlight's reach. Nature writes its patterns with many pens, some genetic, some environmental, but all converge in the leaf. The leaf is the result and the recorder, the archive and the experiment. As you close your eyes tonight, think of a single leaf drifting slowly through air. Not falling, but floating, turning once, twice before it rests. Think of the time it took to form, not just the weeks of growth, but the ages of trial and error, selection and refinement, memory passed through chloroplast and vein. Think of the spiral it obeyed, the code it carried, the balance it preserved. Let that image stay with you, a quiet, veined whisper of logic. A message from the living world that speaks without sound. A design so elegant it repeats in stars and storms, in shells and clouds, in lungs and trees. The geometry of leaves is not just something to study. It is something to feel, to trust, to follow. And as you drift further into stillness, remember this: the leaf does not ask to be noticed. It does not shout. It does not shine. It simply grows, leans, breathes, and returns. It is a soft code, a patient code, a green code. And it waits even now in the darkened branch outside your window, carrying its ancient mathematics toward the light. In a quiet meadow where wind curls softly through the grass, a flower turns its face toward the sky. Not for the first time and not by accident. Long before petals ever bloomed, something deep within was counting. Not with numbers we speak aloud, but with time, with temperature, with light. A hidden arithmetic pulsing beneath every cell. Flowers, you see, remember numbers. Not as we do with digits and symbols, but through patterns, rhythms, cycles of sun and sleep. They are mathematicians of the earth, silent and precise. Before a daisy opens, it has already measured the hours of daylight across many mornings. This is called photoperiodism, the ability to sense how long light lasts and to bloom only when the time is right. Some flowers wait for the longest day. Others respond to the shrinking light of autumn. Each has its own threshold, a secret formula passed down in chloroplasts and genes. This isn't instinct. It is timing written in light, a form of memory. Now picture a sunflower. Its golden head, vast and radiant, holds hundreds of tiny florets arranged in a spiral, but not just any spiral. If you count the arms twisting left and right, you'll find numbers from the Fibonacci sequence. 21 spirals this way, 34 that way, or 34 and 55, or 55 and 89. These aren't guesses. They're optimization. The Fibonacci pattern allows the flower to pack seeds tightly without overlap. Maximum space, minimal waste. A sunflower is an equation made visible. Inside the bud, even before the flower opens, the primordia, tiny growth centers, are already laying out this spiral, guided by auxin, a growth hormone. As each new floret forms, it moves slightly to avoid the one before, settling into a golden angle, about 137.5 degrees from the last. That angle shows up again and again in flowers, in leaves, in shells. A number that helps the world arrange itself with elegance. But flowers don't just remember angles and hours. They remember seasons. Vernalization is the name scientists give to the memory of cold. Many plants require a period of winter chill before they'll bloom. A tulip bulb buried beneath snow won't awaken too early even if the sun returns suddenly. It waits. It recalls. Cold acts like a key that unlocks future flowering. Genes are switched, signals sent, and only then does the green push upward. This is not reaction, it is recall. The crocus that rises through frost is not being brave, it is being certain. It knows through chemical pathways and hormonal whispers that the season has shifted. The plant doesn't count days, it adds up degrees. It tallies light. It calculates change. The numbers are not printed. They are felt in proteins, in cell walls, in the stretch of growth itself. Some plants keep track of time in even stranger ways. The night-blooming jasmine, for example, opens only after dusk, not because it sees the dark, but because it follows a circadian rhythm, an internal clock like ours, tied to 24-hour cycles. Even if you move the plant into a dark cave, it will continue to open and close on time for days. The memory of daylight lingers inside, ticking softly like a heart. And then there is the morning glory. As its name suggests, it blooms early and fades by afternoon. Its petals unfurl with the sunrise, close with the heat. But behind that gentle bloom is a complex equation of pressure, sugar concentration, and osmotic balance. Cells along the petal's edge swell and shrink in coordinated response. Each movement is a calculation, one that repeats every day. Imagine this, a field of wildflowers, each bloom not only beautiful but brilliant in its own quiet logic. Each one the product of measurement. Each one obeying rules written long before rain touched the soil. Even the shape of a petal is part of the pattern. Bilateral symmetry in orchids, radial precision in daisies, curves that guide bees, colors that change based on age or sun position. All of it encoded, all of it remembered. In Japan, the cherry blossom carries more than cultural meaning. It is a calendar, an annual signal, a floral clock. When it blooms, people know the season has changed. The bloom is timed by warmth, not on a fixed day, but by accumulated temperature. Scientists track degree days, the total warmth the plant has absorbed since winter. Too cold and the bloom waits. Too warm and it arrives early. The tree counts silently, waiting for the right sum. Even underground, flowers count. The tiny root hairs of a hyacinth or lily bulb sense gravity, moisture, and warmth. The signals travel upward, telling the shoot when to rise. The angle of emergence, the rate of cell division, the thickness of the stem, all guided by environmental math. Even in darkness, the flower-to-be gathers data and waits for just enough. And when pollinators come, numbers speak again. Some flowers bloom in multiples of 3, lilies, tulips, irises. Others in 4s or 5s, roses, buttercups, apple blossoms. Botanists use these counts to classify plants. Nature didn't choose randomly. These numerical groupings offer balance, efficiency, attraction. Even bees seem to prefer symmetry, drawn to flowers that follow the rules. But perhaps the most tender form of memory is what happens after. After the bloom fades, after the petals drop. The flower still remembers how to become fruit. The ovary swells, the seeds develop, the shapes align. Inside each seed is a new code, a mirror of the one before. A memory passed not only from root to petal but from one generation to the next. The numbers continue, hidden in husk, hushed in soil, waiting to begin again. Let us drift deeper into the petals now, into the heartbeat of a blooming system that does not guess but calculates. Flowers in their stillness are always measuring. They measure not only time but motion. A sensitive plant like Mimosa pudica folds its leaves at a touch, but within its cells are ion channels and pressure sensors, all responding to the magnitude of force. The flower learns what is danger and what is wind. With repeated exposure, it can even stop reacting to harmless stimuli, a kind of memory, a kind of decision, all without a brain. Step inside the genome of a rose, and you'll find regulators, segments of DNA that tell the flower how many petals to grow, how wide to open, when to stop. These are not arbitrary instructions. They are inherited algorithms, shaped over millennia to suit pollinators, climates, and soil. A single mutation in these regulators can change a 5-petal bloom into a 10-petal rosette. Gardeners call it beauty. Scientists call it altered expression. But underneath, the pattern is still mathematical. And it goes further still. The scent of a flower is not just perfume. It is a cloud of data, molecules released in precise ratios to attract specific insects. Lavender, sweet and calming, releases linalool and ocimene in gentle waves. Jasmine emits benzyl acetate under moonlight. These are not just smells. They are signals, fine-tuned formulas that match the receptors of bees, moths, and butterflies. One molecule too few, and the pollinator ignores it. One too many, and the signal is scrambled. Every scent is a calculation, one flower, one equation. Color, too, is measured. Anthocyanins, carotenoids, and chlorophyll pigments shift based on pH, sunlight, and temperature. Some flowers change color over the course of a day, guiding pollinators from fresh to fatting blooms. The blue of a morning glory may shift to purple by afternoon. To our eyes it's lovely, but to the bee it's a map, a message, a system. Even ultraviolet patterns invisible to us light up the petals with arrows, lines, and circles. These nectar guides are mathematical marks that lead directly to pollen, symmetry and function, not just form. And yet the memory in flowers is not only chemical, it's mechanical. The Venus flytrap waits with arms open wide, counting touches. One touch and nothing happens. 2 and 20 seconds and the trap snaps shut. It does not move by impulse but by voltage. An electrical threshold must be met, a precise sequence of charges before motion is permitted. This isn't reflex, it's logic, a safety against wasting energy. The flower is doing something astonishing. It is counting. Even more remarkable is that some plants pass these memories to their offspring. In mustard plants, when parents experience drought, they can prime their seeds to respond faster to stress. This inherited knowledge is not stored in the DNA sequence, but in the way the genes are packaged, a form of epigenetic bookmarking. The child remembers the weather the parent survived. Flowers that were never touched by rain still know how to brace for it. This, too, is a number, a record, a score kept in silence. Let's wander through a garden, a real one or one in your mind. Notice the marigolds, bright and precise, with petals arranged like gears in golden wheels. Notice the snapdragons, whose bilateral symmetry mirrors a human face. Notice the tiny violets, their 5-part structure held like an open hand. None of it is random. All of it is remembered. Seed to bloom to seed again. Instruction passed, executed, refined. In science labs, researchers now create models that simulate how a flower grows. Starting with a virtual seed, they input variables, light, water, temperature, and observe as virtual petals unfold in response. The models use L systems, a type of recursive algorithm that mimics plant development. With just a few rules, an infinite garden appears. The simulation is not perfect, but it reveals something quietly profound. Complexity can rise from simplicity. A few rules repeated create the world we see. This mirrors how nature works. No single flower holds all answers, but together, across millions of species, they solve the problems of space, reproduction, protection, attraction. Each one a variant of the same code, rewritten in color and scent, adjusted for mountain wind or coastal fog. There is wisdom in the diversity, but consistency in the design. Look at clover. Most have 3 leaves. Occasionally, a fourth appears, a genetic hiccup that becomes a symbol of luck. But behind that mutation lies a count, a sequence, a baseline. Plants know what is normal and deviation becomes rare. Even what surprises us follows a pattern. The lotus holds another memory. Its seeds can lie dormant for hundreds of years, waiting for the right combination of warmth, water, and light. And when those conditions come, it grows as if no time has passed. Within its shell, the instructions remained intact, an ancient equation waiting to be solved again. It's not just survival, it's suspended knowledge. And even the petals themselves, as they age, follow predictable paths. Senescence, the slow fatting of a flower, is orchestrated by enzymes that count damage, tally use, and trigger graceful decay. Just as they measured when to bloom, they also measure when to end. In the withering of a petal there is poetry, but also precision. Now, as we walk past beds of lavender and cosmos, of echinacea and columbine, let's remember, flowers are not only for the eye, they are for the mind, for the pattern seeker in all of us. They are living reminders that the natural world does not guess. It remembers. It calculates. It keeps time and space and rhythm close, embedded in form. Every blooming field is a library, every petal a page, every fragrance a footnote. The story is not written in ink, but in ratio, repetition, and return. And if you listen closely, not with ears but with awareness, you'll hear the count. You'll feel the numbers breathing between the stems, rustling through the branches. And you will know, nature's memory is not made of thoughts, it is made of pattern. As dusk begins to settle over the garden, and the last rays of sunlight fold gently into the petals, something ancient stirs within the stems. The light softens, but the counting continues. Flowers do not sleep as we do, but they do rest, guided by their own rhythms, their own inherited calculations of night and day. Some close their blooms to protect delicate structures. Others let their heads bow low, conserving energy until morning's signal returns. It's called nyctinasty, movement triggered not by thought, but by time, temperature, and trust in what has always been. Even sleep has a code. And in this twilight silence, the next cycle begins. Deep inside each ovary, if the flower has been pollinated, tiny cells begin to divide. Not chaotically, but with order. 2 become 4, 4 become 8. The embryo takes shape in symmetry, a mirror of generations past. Genes are activated in precise stages. One group to control size, another to guide color, another to time the moment when the fruit will swell. A flower does not hope it will become a fruit, it remembers how. Even in wild fields where no gardener watches, this precision holds. A poppy knows exactly how many petals to grow. A lily knows when to bend toward the morning light. A milkweed pod bursts open at a temperature it can't see, but somehow senses. Memory here is not stored in a brain. It is stored in form, in spiral, in symmetry, in cellular alignment. It is a memory held in shape. Step now into alpine meadows where short summers mean shorter blooming windows. Flowers there do not waste time. They count snowmelt days and begin growth the moment the soil warms. Their stems stay low, petals bright, calculated to attract the few pollinators that pass in haste. Each bloom is brief, precise, and necessary. Nothing is done without reason. Nothing is left to chance. Travel farther into tropical jungles and see a different kind of counting. Orchids, some with petals shaped like insects, mimic their pollinators not just in look but in chemistry. They release pheromones timed to match the mating cycles of specific bees. The flower knows when the bee will come before the bee itself does. This is not mere mimicry. It is prediction, forecasting written in molecules. There is also deceit. Some flowers, like the corpse lily, count the right temperature and humidity to release their scent, a scent that mimics rotting meat to attract carrion flies. Others offer no nectar, only the illusion of it, timing their colors and openings to fool the hungry. These strategies may seem cruel, but they are not thoughtless. They are patterns honed by outcome, efficiency measured in survival. Now pause at the edge of a pond where water lilies float like pale stars. Each bloom opens with morning, closes by night. Over several days, the flower changes from female to male, timing its gender so that it cannot pollinate itself. Cross-pollination ensures genetic diversity, strength, adaptability. And so the flower waits. It counts days, then switches roles. Reproduction, you see, is not just biology. It is choreography. And what of the seed? That tiny shell that will one day become an entire plant. It holds more than promise. It holds architecture. Inside, the cotyledons, the embryonic root, the future stem are all arranged in miniature. The code to grow tall or stay low, to bloom early or wait, is encoded not only in DNA but in the very geometry of its first shape. When the rain comes, when the sun calls, when warmth wraps the soil, the seed does not guess what to do. It follows instructions. Even extinction follows this law. Flowers that go extinct are often those whose environment changed too fast. Their calculations no longer match the world around them. Timing falls out of sync. Pollinators vanish. Light shifts. What was once an efficient, elegant formula becomes obsolete. But until that moment, the flower remains precise, still counting, still remembering. And we, humans wandering through this matrix of blooms and roots, are also shaped by it. We plant by moonlight, harvest by season, mark our calendars by blossom and fall, spring festivals, summer weddings, autumn mourning, winter rest. Our own rhythms are braided into theirs. We see flowers as symbols but forget they are clocks, instruments, equations in bloom. Scientists now use the bloom dates of cherry blossoms in Japan to track climate change. The earliest records go back over 1,000 years. Each bloom date is a number, a data point in a curve that tells a new story, one of warmth rising, frost fading, cycles shifting. The flowers are still counting, but the totals are changing. Their memory is faithful. It's the world that forgets. Still, there is hope in each petal. Hope not as emotion, but as structure, a structure so resilient that even in chaos it tries again. A wildflower growing through a crack in concrete did not rebel. It calculated. It sensed light, moisture, and air and made its move. The bloom was not defiance. It was logic. It was the result of 1,000 decisions made in silence, beneath the surface, before the first green thread broke through. So when you next pass a flower, pause, not to admire only but to listen, not with ears but with awareness. It is not merely pretty, it is precise. It has counted the hours, felt the heat, measured the wind, and chosen this moment. Not because it had to, but because everything in its structure told it this was right. Let that knowledge soften you. Let it slow you. Because just like the flower, you too are made of patterns. Your breath has rhythm. Your cells divide with balance. Your heart remembers the rise and fall of light. Somewhere within, you are counting too. Not with numbers, but with need. Not with calendars, but with feeling. And perhaps that's the oldest memory of all, the memory of when to bloom. Somewhere near the shoreline, where the sea folds itself into foamy fingers and pulls back again, there lies a whisper of a pattern so ancient, so quiet that most never hear it. It hides in the shell of a snail, in the curl of a wave, in the hush between tides. It is the spiral, not just a shape but a memory, not just a curve but a code. The sea has followed it since the beginning, when earth first cooled, when oceans first formed. It is the spiral that holds the sea. Look closely at a nautilus shell. Its chambers widen in a precise ratio, each one larger than the last, each connected by a perfect arc. This isn't art, it's mathematics. The nautilus grows by building new rooms in a logarithmic spiral, one that never changes shape, only size. The curve expands, but its angle stays constant. And why? Because this form balances buoyancy, strength, and energy. It allows the animal to rise or fall in the water without sinking or straining. The spiral is not decoration. It is survival shaped in elegance. Waves, too, follow the spiral. When you see a storm spin in satellite images, a cyclone, a hurricane, its arms curl inward in a golden dance. These aren't random swirls. They follow the same spiral the nautilus does. the same spiral that unfurls in galaxies, in sunflowers, in fingerprints. It's called the logarithmic spiral, or sometimes the golden spiral, and the sea, in all its vastness, remembers it with every crashing tide. Tides themselves are born of motion, the pull of the moon, the spin of the earth. But when they reach the shore, their energy arcs and curls, shaping the coastline grain by grain. Over time, bays and headlands form spirals in stone. Even erosion remembers the curve. Sea stacks, arches, and caves often begin as spiral stress points, places where water finds its way in and slowly unwinds the land. The ocean, though loud in its arrival, is gentle in its shaping. It spirals inward. It spirals home. Walk along the beach and you'll find spiral clues scattered at your feet. Shells of gastropods curled tight with mathematical care. Each one follows a rule. The size of the whorls grows exponentially, not linearly. This allows the creature to grow without changing shape, to keep balance even as it becomes larger. Some shells, like those of conches or whelks, seem almost too perfect. Their beauty feels like chance, but it is anything but. Inside, the animal deposits calcium carbonate in a strict pattern, guided by genetic instructions that echo through time. Even smaller creatures follow the spiral's path. Plankton, invisible to the eye, drift in currents that spiral downward in vertical columns. These marine snowfalls bring nutrients from surface to deep, feeding fish, whales, and seafloor life. The spiral is not just shape, but motion, the way energy moves from place to place, the way the ocean breathes. Currents spiral too. The great gyres of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans rotate like the arms of a living clock. These loops, thousands of miles wide, govern climate, weather, migration. Warm water spins northward, cold water spins south. Fish follow these spirals. So do sea turtles, drifting in circles that span decades and hemispheres. Migration is not guesswork. It is memory, a spiral passed down through blood and instinct. The sea itself spins on a planet that spins. The Coriolis effect, caused by Earth's rotation, curves moving water to the right in the northern hemisphere, to the left in the southern. This causes spirals to form even in the smallest eddies. A leaf dropped into the tide will twist and whirl, caught in unseen curves that have always been there. The spiral holds it gently, almost knowingly. But perhaps the softest spiral of all is the one that forms when a droplet meets the sea. Not a splash, but a ripple. Circular at first, then curling inward as waves interfere, bounce, and repeat. Energy circles back on itself. Echoes of echoes form spirals in sound and motion. Even the voice of a whale, singing across vast stretches of salt and silence, moves in waveforms that spiral in the deep. Coral reefs, too, remember the spiral. Some species, like the cauliflower coral, grow in radial bursts that expand in logarithmic order. This form maximizes surface area, allowing light and nutrients to reach every tip. Reef fish hide in the folds. Anemones pulse in the crevices. The structure is both home and law, each curve a compromise between strength and growth, a blueprint written in calcium and patience. At night, when the sea seems to rest beneath the moon, plankton drift upward in the largest migration on Earth. Billions of tiny creatures rising and falling each day in a spiral rhythm of light and dark. It's called diel vertical migration, a clockwork tide within a tide. They rise to feed when it's dark and descend to hide when the sun returns. Their path, though vertical, still curls with currents and light. The spiral lives in them too. And when we, curious and barefoot, draw spirals in the wet sand with a stick, we are not inventing anything new. We are remembering. Somewhere inside, we too carry the memory of the curve. Our cochleas, deep inside our ears, curl like a seashell, converting vibrations into hearing. The spiral lets us listen. The spiral lets us understand. The ocean is full of such codes, not hidden by complexity but by silence. The sea doesn't shout its patterns. It hums them over centuries. And those who listen closely, scientists, divers, poets, begin to hear it, begin to see it. In waves, in storms, in shells, in songs and maps. A quiet spiral that holds not just the sea, but the story of how the sea remembers. Let us now dive beneath the surface. where the spiral takes on new forms, not just in shells or currents but in life itself. Beneath the waves, in the dark silence where sunlight barely reaches, the ocean builds its own architecture. Tiny diatoms, microscopic plants drifting in the sea, construct glass shells in spiraled symmetry. Their skeletons, formed from dissolved silica, are etched with ridges, grooves, and loops. No two are identical, yet each follows rules of radial growth and proportion. Their patterns resemble snowflakes, mandalas, ancient coins, and yet they are alive, spiraling in their design, drifting in their purpose. Jellyfish pulse through the ocean with radial balance, their tentacles arranged in circular harmony, their motion creating spirals in the water behind them. Their propulsion is simple: contract and release. Yet as they move, they leave behind spiraling turbulence, invisible waves that curl like ghosts through the salt water. Even in their fragility, jellyfish obey the code of the sea, a soft spiral written in their own rhythm. Further down, where darkness thickens and pressure rises, other patterns emerge. The chambered squid builds its internal shell in a perfect spiral, not unlike the nautilus, though hidden within its body. Its movements are governed by jet propulsion, but its design is old, mathematical, reliable. In the fossil record, we find ammonites, ancient marine creatures whose coiled shells resemble today's snail, though they lived millions of years ago. Their spirals endure in stone, a record of oceans long vanished. Each chamber, each curve still precise. And in the strange deep where no sunlight dares to go, bioluminescent creatures swirl in spiral displays to confuse predators or attract mates. Spirals of light, blinking and shifting in the black water. Some form spinning rings, others wave phosphorescent arms in curling patterns. These glowing spirals aren't random beauty, they're language, survival, and strategy all at once. The dark has no shortage of design. In coral reefs near the surface, spiral codes continue to unfold. The branching of staghorn coral often follows a logarithmic path, each limb dividing at angles that maximize exposure to flow and light. Sponges, though shapeless at first glance, grow in tubes and curls that follow fluid dynamics. The sea is always moving, and anything that lives within it must learn not to resist but to dance with it. The spiral is not a cage. It is a current you can follow home. Even kelp forests, swaying with the tide, form gentle spirals as they rise. The blades twist upward around a central stalk, ensuring that each one finds its place in the sun. If they grew straight, they would block each other. But by spiraling, they share the light. This strategy, simple, elegant, silent, is encoded in every blade. The spiral teaches how to grow without greed. And in the currents that thread through all of this, the great spiral conveyor of Earth flows beneath our ships and feet. Known as the thermohaline circulation, it is a global spiral of deep and surface waters, cold and warm, driven by salt and heat. It takes 1,000 years to complete one loop, moving nutrients, oxygen, and energy across the world. Without it, oceans would stagnate. Climates would shift. It is the breath of the sea, and its path is a spiral longer than memory. Whales follow this path. Blue whales, gray whales, humpbacks, their migrations loop along coastlines, cross hemispheres, spiral through feeding and breeding grounds. These giants, the largest beings ever to live, move with the spiral's patience. They do not rush. They listen. Their songs, long and slow, follow repeating patterns. Sound spirals outward through the water for miles. Some songs echo for days. They are not melodies in the human sense, but maps, spiraled coordinates sung through the dark. Barnacles, fixed to rocks and ships, grow in spiral formations that defy their stillness. Each shell is a record of time, curling upward as the creature adds new layers. Like trees with rings, they hold stories of currents, temperatures, and seasons past. Spiral memory, wrapped in stone. And as water swirls into whirlpools or vanishes down sinkholes, it always follows a spiral path. Drains, eddies, even the flush of a tide pool, these too echo the cosmic curve. The laws that govern them are ancient. They arise from conservation of angular momentum, from fluid friction, from gravitational pull. But underneath the physics is a deeper truth. The sea is not random. It remembers how to turn. Even the sands remember. If you scoop up a handful of beach sand and look through a microscope, you'll see tiny broken shells, bits of coral, fragments of foraminifera, microscopic organisms that once lived in spiraled chambers. Crushed by time, scattered by tide, they still bear the imprint of their geometry. The beach is not made of dust. It is made of patterns worn smooth. The spiral extends into behavior too. Fish in schools often swim in spiraling formations, especially when threatened. A bait ball forms hundreds of fish circling inward, each one following the one ahead, the spiral tightening until a predator either strikes or retreats. Safety in motion, strategy in shape. And even the weather above the ocean speaks spiral. Trade winds curve across the globe in loops, feeding into tropical storms that spiral wider with heat. These spirals are not just dramatic symbols on weather maps. They are thermodynamic engines, churning heat from sea to sky. Rain falls in arcs, wind bends in circles, and when the eye of the storm passes, there is stillness inside the spiral. A reminder that even within chaos, geometry remains. So much of the sea's life and structure, from its tiniest plankton to its largest waves, is shaped by this spiral logic, this curling, repeating rhythm of growth, movement, and memory. And the deeper we look, the more we see that nothing in the ocean is ever wasted. Motion becomes pattern. Energy becomes shape. The spiral holds it all gently, endlessly. Now imagine the beginning not of the sea itself, but of its oldest spiral. Before ships sailed and before humans named the tides, there were ripples forming in pools left by the rain. Perhaps in a quiet inlet where the moon's pull first met the edge of the land, spirals emerged in sand patterns and wind-carved shallows. These were the first sketches of something eternal, the sea learning how to remember, how to repeat, how to return. And from then on, the spiral never left. It curled its way into the design of shells, into the drift of algae, into the very swirl of the Earth's rotating heart. Some say the spiral is nature's way of organizing expansion, always growing, never losing form. The sea uses this logic endlessly. As waves travel outward from a single point of disturbance, they spiral across the surface, curving not because they choose to, but because the laws of water, gravity, and motion have carved this memory into every molecule. A whale breach, a falling rock, a raindrop, all release energy that bends and loops. Even chaos has a shape, and the spiral is its signature. Let your thoughts now drift to tide pools at low tide. Here, within rocky hollows, life clings to spiral rules. Limpets, with their conical shells coiled in logarithmic turns, move slowly across stone, grazing in patterns that spiral outward from the point where they last rested. Sea anemones stretch and curl their tentacles, spiraling gently in the current to catch passing food. Even the barnacle larva, before it settles, swims in a spiral path, a method that maximizes its chances of landing where it can thrive. The smallest decisions, the simplest instincts, still follow the spiral's advice. And what of the creatures that never stay in one place? Eels migrate across oceans in looping patterns guided by invisible cues. Salmon spiral upstream, their twisting bodies remembering a path their parents once took. The very smell of the water, the angle of the sun, the push of the current, all add up to a memory of movement, a curved return. This is not just direction. It is recursion. It is nature looping back to itself. Then there are the sea stars. Their bodies, radially symmetrical, branch in 5 arms, but their larvae spin as they swim. They rotate as they grow, a spiraling journey from floating speck to star-shaped crawler. Even octopuses, with their 8 limbs and supple bodies, often curl themselves into spirals when they rest, when they hide, when they dream. Scientists have observed them curling into chambered spaces, mimicking the shelter of the nautilus, as if remembering a shape older than their own kind. But it is not only movement and form. Spiral logic appears in time as well. Tidal cycles repeat, but not exactly. They shift slightly each day, creating spirals in calendars, not just coastlines. The metonic cycle, a 19-year pattern of moon phases returning to the same position, forms a spiral of time. Ancient mariners, without modern instruments, learned to navigate by reading these loops. They watched the stars rise in curves. They mapped the wind as it changed. Their memory of the sea was not written in lines, it was traced in spirals. And now, in the modern age, we see the same spirals in data. Satellite images show ocean temperatures swirling. Computer models of El Niño and La Niña form spiraling pulses across the Pacific. Sonar reveals spiral burrows made by fish. Even plastic debris, unfortunately, follows the sea's spiral, gathering in gyres that swirl for decades, holding what we leave behind. The sea doesn't forget, it stores. And when the sea touches land, when waves carve fjords, when tides shape deltas, the spiral leaves fingerprints. River mouths do not flow straight. They curl. They meander. Sediment moves in arcs, building sandbars and islands in spiraled symmetry. It's not just what water does, it's how it remembers the pressure of slope, the friction of stone, the pull of the moon. Every coastline is a spiral interrupted. In art, we mimic the spiral unknowingly. The swirl of watercolors on a brush, the way nets are cast from fishing boats, the patterns carved into ancient oars and sea vessels, the circular tattoos of island cultures, echoing waves and shells, and the endless cycle of return. We are not inventing these symbols, we are transcribing what the sea has always known. Even in grief and joy, the sea speaks spiral. A message in a bottle drifts in curves. A song sung on the shore returns in echoes shaped by cove and cliff. We launch our memories into the sea, and they do not travel straight. They spin. They wander. They come back different. So when you next stand at the shore, watching a shell twist in the sand or a wave fold in on itself, remember, you are standing inside an equation older than words. The sea is not only water, it is memory in motion, geometry in breath, a spiral spun from salt and silence. And as you breathe with it, in and out, tide and pause, you become part of the pattern, not apart from it. The spiral is not something to solve. It is something to follow, something to trust, something that reminds you that even in vastness, even in change, there is order, there is return. Because in the sea's endless spirals, nothing is lost. Everything is turned gently back to the beginning again and again and again. Beneath the hush of leaves and the hush of years, the forest hums with a logic it never speaks aloud. Trees stand still, but they calculate. Moss grows slowly, but it remembers. The forest is not only a place of growth, it is a place of code. Beneath the roots, between the branches, across the canopy and the soil, nature runs its own silent algorithms, built not in silicon but in sap, not in circuits but in sunlight. This intelligence is not fast, but it is deep, an ancient rhythm shaped by light, memory, and the quiet math of survival. Walk among the trunks and you'll feel it. Every fern unfolding, every branch bending toward light, is responding to data. Plants track the position of the sun with photoreceptors, turning leaves to follow its arc, a calculation called heliotropism. It's not thought, but it's not chance either. A sunflower does not simply face east each morning because it likes the dawn. It does so because it has stored information about the sun's movement, adjusted its internal clock, and written those instructions into growth. The forest moves by remembering. Under the soil, trees are not isolated. Their roots weave into networks, connecting with fungi that act as bridges, what scientists call the mycorrhizal web. This underground system lets trees share resources, send warnings, balance needs. A tall pine might pass nutrients to a younger sibling. An injured maple might signal distress. These aren't gestures of kindness, but survival strategies refined through time. The forest runs on feedback loops. One tree's health affects another's, and the system corrects itself. Data moves in the dark. Sugars flow from leaves to roots based on the needs of each part of the tree. Water rises through xylem only when pressure gradients signal thirst. Hormones like auxin and cytokinin direct cells where to divide, how to grow. The pattern is not spontaneous. It's guided by input light, moisture, gravity, and by inherited logic. A tree is a slow computer, its trunk the processor, its branches the output, its roots the network. Look at a grove from above and you'll see another algorithm spacing. Trees don't grow just anywhere. Seeds land, but only some survive based on light availability, soil nutrients, and how close other trees already are. This is self-thinning, a forest's way of preventing overcrowding. Even falling leaves carry strategy, designed to scatter wide so that not every sapling competes with the same parent. Pattern over time, trial over space. And in the light that filters through the canopy, there is yet more design. Tall trees create shade, but smaller plants time their bloom to the moments when sunlight pierces through gaps, what ecologists call sunflecks. These bursts may last only seconds, but they carry enough energy to sustain growth. Plants learn to expect them, to adjust leaf angles, to open stomata only when the light is right. Timing, spacing, memory, all part of the forest's language. When a tree falls, the algorithm shifts. A gap opens. Light rushes in. Seeds that have waited for years dormant in the soil now sense warmth, moisture, and light. They awaken. They rise, not all at once and not randomly. Species take turns. Pioneer plants come first, fast-growing and hungry for space. Then shrubs, then young trees. Succession, they call it, the forest's way of restoring order. A restart that isn't from scratch but from memory. Bark patterns, too, follow code. Some trees wear smooth coats to shed moss. Others grow thick ridges to hold water. These textures aren't just aesthetics. They regulate temperature, channel rain, protect from insects. Insects, in turn, have learned to read the bark, laying eggs only on specific patterns. Birds learn these cues too, pecking where grubs hide. Pattern within pattern. Signals layered across species. Even leaves carry embedded algorithms. Their veins follow fractal paths, branching again and again into smaller lines, each one delivering nutrients and removing waste. The edge of each leaf is shaped to catch wind or shed water. Some curve down to guide rain to roots. Others curl up to hold dew. All of it, every lobe, every tooth, every vein, is a record of decisions made in slow motion. Form is function, is code. And when autumn comes, the forest shifts into its next phase of logic. Chlorophyll breaks down, colors emerge, but not all at once. Some trees change early to store energy. Others wait, calculating the risk of frost. Then, in near-perfect synchronization, leaves fall not chaotically but based on signals within and without. A drop in light, a drop in temperature, an internal clock that knows, even without seeing, that it is time to let go. Decomposition is not decay, it is reallocation. Fungi and bacteria break down fallen wood and leaf, releasing nutrients into the soil. The forest does not forget what it was. It recycles memory into root food. It stores the past in rings and sap and spores. Even the shape of a rotting log matters, carved with tunnels by beetles, softened by moss. It becomes nursery and sponge and shelf. Code doesn't die. It reroots. And so the forest, even in stillness, is processing. It gathers inputs, makes decisions, adjusts itself. When drought comes, stomata close to conserve water. When fire comes, some seeds only open through flame, a logic of waiting for disaster. When wind leans hard, trees grow reaction wood, denser cells on one side to stay upright. These are not instincts. They are equations. The algorithms aren't perfect, but they are resilient. The forest adapts not with panic but with patience. It does not rush, it adjusts. It remembers where the light came from last year, where the roots found water, where the squirrel buried the seed. It does not need to think, it only needs to know. And it does, in rings, in roots, in rhythm. Deeper into the forest, where light barely filters through the canopy and the air hums with damp breath, the algorithms become subtler. A mushroom rises overnight from unseen threads, but its decision to bloom was not sudden. For days, even weeks, its underground mycelium measured moisture, sensed the nutrients nearby, monitored temperature. Only when the variables aligned did it fruit. The mushroom is not just a body, it is the visible result of hidden calculations. The forest is full of these emergent moments, where something silent becomes visible only when the equation is complete. Lichens paint the trunks with soft colors, but even they follow rules. A lichen is not one organism, but two, a fungus and an alga, or sometimes a cyanobacterium living together. They form colonies only where humidity, bark chemistry, and light levels meet the needs of both partners. These aren't random growths, they're the answers to a shared problem. Each patch of lichen is a resolution, a quiet compromise shaped in geometry. Birds nesting high above make choices based on branches, cover, past seasons, and the noise of predators. They do not build randomly. Each stick, each strand of moss is placed in response to the shape of the tree, the wind, the echoes that ripple through the forest. Some birds even reuse old nests, adjusting them slightly, a form of version control. Nature edits. Nature saves drafts. Ants, those tiny engineers, carve underground chambers with stunning efficiency. Each tunnel is shaped to regulate airflow and temperature. Scouts measure distance, mark trails with scent, and adapt routes in real time based on obstacles and new food sources. If one ant dies, another takes its place. The colony remembers the path, not the individual. This is not blind instinct. It is collective processing, behavior shaped by shared information, refined through iteration. Insects pollinate in loops. Bees visit flowers in a predictable pattern, optimizing their route to gather the most nectar with the least effort. This is known as traplining, and it's not random flitting. It's memory shaped into a schedule. They calculate distances, recognize landmarks, even account for how recently they last visited a bloom. Each flower holds data. Each bee reads it. Even wind patterns through the forest follow recursive flow, shaped by the height of trees, the shape of leaves, the warmth of the ground. As wind moves, it picks up scent molecules, pollen grains, and information. Trees exposed to consistent wind grow thicker on the windward side. Branches twist slightly over years. The structure becomes a record of movement. The wind writes in wood. Mammals follow similar patterns. Deer move along trails established over generations, paths that offer safety, food, and visibility. Foxes loop through territories in spirals, checking scent marks, revisiting places where prey may have passed. These routes aren't guessed each time. They're remembered, updated, optimized. The forest is a living map. Every paw print is data. And at the cellular level, the algorithms continue. A leaf, damaged by an insect bite, sends out chemical signals to warn nearby tissues. These signals travel through plasmodesmata, microscopic channels between cells. The undamaged cells begin producing protective compounds, thickening their walls even before harm comes. This is preemptive defense, logic encoded in fluid and light. The tree anticipates, not with fear but with calculation. When night falls, plants don't sleep, but they do shift. Stomata close, growth changes direction, sugar storage begins. A tree in darkness is not idle. It's recovering, preparing, resetting. Its circadian rhythm, a genetic timer, regulates when certain genes turn on or off. Even without sun or clocks, it tracks the hours. The forest knows the time. And then there is memory. Trees remember drought. After a dry season, many grow smaller leaves the following year, anticipating stress. They adjust root depth, change stomatal behavior. Some even alter their growth rings, tightening them to preserve strength. These aren't mere reactions. They're remembered adaptations, changes stored and retrieved as needed. Over decades, a forest reshapes itself. Certain species rise, others fade. Nutrients shift. Microclimates form. The ground beneath our feet is layered with decisions: what fell, what grew, what stayed. The soil carries algorithms in carbon and fungi, in moisture and mineral. It calculates what to release and when. It breathes in balance. Even fire is part of the pattern. Some forests depend on it. Pines with thick bark resist the flames, their seeds only opening after heat. These trees time their reproduction to catastrophe. Others grow back faster after being burned, using stored sugars in roots untouched by flame. The forest does not fear fire. It includes it. It writes it into the loop. And when humans plant rows of trees, we often miss the complexity. A monoculture looks like a forest but lacks its code. There's no variation in leaf shape, root depth, canopy height. Without diversity, the algorithms break down. Disease spreads faster. Wind topples more. The system forgets how to balance itself. The forest is not just trees. It's variation within order. It's redundancy within pattern. Like a well-written program, it accounts for failure, for change, for time. And at the edge of the forest, where it meets meadow or wetland or stone, the code doesn't stop. It blends. Ecatones, transition zones, carry rules of both ecosystems, weaving them into a shared algorithm. The edge species, those that thrive in in-betweens, adapt to multiple signals. They're the translators of nature's syntax, bridging language from one biome to another. This entire system, from root to canopy, from fungi to fox, runs on rules that took millennia to form. They weren't planned. They were tested, refined, remembered, and they continue. With each passing season, the forest learns again how to grow, how to rest, how to begin. As dawn returns to the forest, casting a thin gold across the dew-heavy leaves, the algorithms begin again. But they do not restart, they resume. What appears as the simple unfurling of a fern or the stretching of a squirrel's legs is the continuation of a pattern already set into motion long before sunrise. A fern does not open randomly. Its fronds uncurl in precise spirals, each turn following the Fibonacci sequence, maximizing exposure, minimizing overlap. It is not only beautiful, it is efficient. And this efficiency is the forest's quiet language, the result of memory held in shape. A tree's canopy spreads wide, but not wide enough to shade its neighbor. Crown shyness, scientists call it, the phenomenon where the uppermost branches of trees avoid touching. It seems polite, almost conscious, but beneath it lies a mechanical awareness, a sensing of movement and light. Branches sway in wind and learn where space is needed. Over time, they remember the limits. The result is a sky etched with gaps, not of failure but of precision. Even in growth, the forest respects the rule of the other. Deer tread lightly along paths not made but found, the softest incline, the safest visibility, the closest water. Over generations, these trails etch themselves into the land, becoming data highways. Not every animal follows the same path, but all paths follow the same logic. Avoid the steep, seek the cover, pass through where light and scent and memory agree. The forest doesn't direct them. It invites them. And they, in turn, inscribe their stories into the soil. Meanwhile, leaves breathe. Not loudly, not all at once. They open pores called stomata based on humidity, carbon levels, internal pressure. 1,000 calculations unfold every hour: how much to open, how long to stay open, when to close. One mistake and the plant loses too much water. One miscalculation and photosynthesis halts, but the leaves rarely falter. Their memory is chemical. Their algorithms are fluid. Insects flutter and hum, but even their erratic flight obeys patterns. Moths spiral around light because their navigation system assumes light is far away, the moon, the stars, and so they maintain a constant angle. Artificial lights confuse this ancient logic, but the spiral, the attempt to resolve that angle, remains intact. It is the memory of the night before humans changed its rules. The soil itself holds the oldest logic. Beneath the top layer, mycorrhizal networks distribute information and nutrients across species, preferring kin but also assisting strangers. Fungal threads decide how much to give and take, adjusting flow based on the health of each partner. A starving tree might receive more. A dying one might be cut off. It is a market but without greed, a balance sheet without desire. The forest runs on reciprocity shaped over centuries. Seasonal shifts are not just weather. They are cycles of memory. As spring nears, trees prepare days in advance. Buds swell, not on the first warm day, but when enough warmth accumulates, a concept called growing degree days. It's not the calendar that triggers the bloom, but accumulated data. Temperature logged like entries in a journal. Only when the threshold is met do the flowers appear. The forest remembers warmth. In summer, trees optimize. Leaves turn slightly to reduce water loss. Roots grow deeper where surface moisture fades. Birds raise young in sync with peak insect numbers. Even predators time their birth so food is abundant. Nothing happens in isolation. Each choice is informed by 1,000 signals, from light, from scent, from sound. Even a silence, the absence of birdsong, the stillness of leaves, can signal change. The forest reads what isn't said. In autumn, as chlorophyll fades, the forest does not die. It shifts. Nutrients retreat into trunks and roots. Leaves are cut off deliberately. An abscission layer forms, sealing the wound before the fall. This is not decay. It is preparation. Trees do not gamble with frost. They exit the growing season with precision, folding their energy inward, waiting for the code to reset. And in winter, beneath snow and stillness, the forest continues to compute. Some seeds lie frozen, their outer shells cracked just enough to allow water in come spring. Some animals sleep in rhythms, heartbeats slow, temperatures drop, but internal clocks remain counting. A hibernating bear's breath is not random. It follows a cycle tuned to light, heat, hunger. Even in pause, there is pattern. When fire comes, as it does in some forests, it is not always disaster. Some cones require flame to open. Some seeds only sprout in ash-rich soil. Fire clears dead wood, resets undergrowth, allows light to return. The forest does not fear fire. It remembers how to begin again. The new growth is often faster, brighter, more varied. A reboot, not a ruin. Through all this, the forest holds its algorithms not in books or wires, but in rings. Every year, a tree adds a new layer, its width reflecting that year's climate, moisture, sunlight. Read those rings and you read history. Droughts, floods, fires, they are written in circles, in spirals of wood coiled inward like memory. The tree remembers even if we forget. And when we step back, far back, and view the forest as one system, we see a living algorithm of feedback, adaptation, and regeneration. A system that inputs light, water, heat, decay, and outputs shade, air, food, and song. A code that runs not in seconds but in seasons. Not with blinking lights but with unfolding petals. So when you next walk beneath the trees, notice the way the path curves not straight but with flow. The way the branches filter light like stained glass. The way the silence is never empty. Everything you see is part of the forest's memory, not frozen in place, but always adjusting, refining, breathing. You are not outside of it, you are part of it. Your breath joins the forest's rhythm. Your footsteps leave traces in its algorithm. And if you slow down, quiet your thoughts and listen, really listen, you may begin to hear the hum beneath the leaves. The sound of something old, something wise, something still writing itself into being. The forest's algorithms are not artificial. They are original, the blueprint from which all life takes notes. And even now, as you walk away, they continue recalculating, remembering, renewing. In the hush of early morning, before the world fully stirs, a bird lifts itself into the sky. Its wings do not rise by accident. Each feather, each beat, follows a pattern written long before its first flight. The lift, the arc, the angle, all of it is calculation. Insects, birds, bats, and even seeds use air not only to move, but to measure. Flight, you see, is not simply freedom. It is math. Silent, ancient, precise. Hidden in every wing is a blueprint of forces, geometry, and balance. The sky may look open, but it is full of invisible numbers, and the creatures who fly know them by heart. Start with a feather. Look close and you'll see it is more than softness. It is structure layered in logic. The shaft down the center holds firm like a spine. Branching from it are barbs, and from those, smaller barbules interlock like zippers. This microstructure makes the feather light yet strong, flexible yet stable. Different feathers serve different roles: primary feathers for thrust, secondary for lift, covert feathers for smooth flow. Together, they do not guess how to fly. They remember. A wing is not a flap of skin or fluff. It is a living airfoil, a shape engineered to bend air. The top is curved, the bottom flatter. As air passes over, it moves faster across the top than underneath. This creates lower pressure above and higher pressure below, the Bernoulli principle, and the wing rises. Birds do not know the formula, but they follow it perfectly. Every contour is an answer. Every beat is a repetition of flight's equation. Even young birds on their first awkward flutters carry this code. Inside their bones and muscles is a memory of angles, how wide to spread, how fast to flap, how to tilt for a glide. The bones are hollow but cross-braced, shaped to balance lightness and strength. The shoulder joint allows rotation. The wrist folds. The tail adjusts like a rudder. It is not random assembly. It is design learned over millions of years. Insects follow other numbers. A dragonfly flaps its wings independently, front and back, not in sync, but in complement. This allows it to hover, dart, reverse. Its wing beat frequency matches its body size and environment. A mosquito flaps 600 times per second, each beat perfectly timed. This precision is guided not by choice but by resonance. The thorax vibrates like a spring. The wings respond in tune. The math of flight is hidden in the rhythm of the buzz. Even seeds take to the air with math. The samara, the whirling maple seed, spins as it falls, creating lift from a single wing. It travels farther, slower, on a spiral of descent. Some seeds are flat and wide to glide. Others are feathered to float. The air is not passive. It pushes, pulls, resists. And seeds are shaped to dance with it, not to escape gravity, but to negotiate with it. And then there are bats, the only mammals with true flight. Their wings are not feathers, but skin stretched across elongated fingers. Each digit moves separately, adjusting surface area, catching or shedding air. Bats modulate their wing shape mid-flight, using real-time data from tendons and nerves. They can sense pressure changes across their membranes and respond within milliseconds. It is like flying with a built-in weather station, adjusting trajectory with every gust. This is not magic. It is anatomy fused with physics. Butterflies, so delicate they seem to float rather than fly, use broad wings with low wing loading, a ratio of body mass to wing area. This allows them to glide on warm air currents, expend little energy, and navigate complex spaces like forests and flower beds. But even their erratic flutter is not chaos. It is controlled unpredictability, a way to avoid predators, a pattern that appears random but is shaped by evolutionary math. The unpredictability is intentional. It increases survival. And bees, small, dense, with wings that seem too small to lift their bodies, use a different trick. They flap in a figure-8 pattern, creating unsteady airflows called leading-edge vortices. These swirling currents add lift beyond what a steady flow would provide. Bees fly not because they break the rules of physics, but because they follow more complex ones. Their math is turbulent, their flight a study in controlled instability. Bird migration, too, is shaped by numbers. Distance, altitude, wind speed, temperature, all factored in. Geese fly in a V formation, each bird drafting off the one ahead, reducing air resistance. The lead rotates. Energy is saved. Communication is constant. This is teamwork guided by flight dynamics, not emotion but efficiency. Even flight paths follow logic. Falcons dive in parabolic arcs to maximize acceleration. Swifts sleep while gliding, taking micronaps midair. Monarch butterflies use the sun's position and magnetic fields to navigate thousands of kilometers. Each decision, when to flap, when to glide, when to rest, is a calculation. Not made in the brain alone, but in muscle, bone, air. The structure of a wing is matched to the creature's need. Hummingbirds have short, strong wings for hovering. Albatrosses have long, narrow wings for soaring over oceans. Hawks curve their wings for maneuvering through forests. No shape is universal. Each is a response to a different equation: energy, space, need. Wings do not exist without drag, and creatures adapt to it. Streamlined bodies, tapered tips, overlapping feathers all reduce resistance. Even the way birds preen, aligning feathers and removing debris, is a maintenance of function. A clean wing flies better. It is self-calibration, a daily act of aerodynamic care. Flight is not only escape. It is strategy. It is form meeting force. And every creature that flies does so not by accident, but by remembering the unspoken numbers in air, lift, drag, thrust, weight, balance not in mind, but in movement. And so, when a sparrow lifts off from a branch or a moth drifts into a night lamp's glow, they are not just in motion. They are solving. They are performing the math of motion, the physics of lift, the geometry of survival, quietly, precisely, beautifully. Now follow the arc of flight through time, not just in the air but in the fossil layers of stone. Long before wings touched sky, there were limbs that stretched, membranes that formed, feathers that weren't yet for flying. Archaeopteryx, the ancient bird-like dinosaur, had asymmetric feathers, a sign of flight or at least the intention of it. Its bones were lightened, its tail balanced, its claws curved. It was part of an algorithm still being written, a test run of lift and glide. Evolution did not leap into the air. It climbed, faltered, repeated, adjusting its code with each generation. Feathers themselves began not for flight, but for warmth, for display, for camouflage. Their symmetry, texture, and shape slowly changed until they could catch air. And once they did, flight was no longer a miracle, it was a consequence. A natural next step in a pattern seeking freedom. From the forest floor to the tree canopy, from gliding to flapping, from jumping to soaring, wings evolved not randomly, but logically. The bat took a different path. Not feathers, but stretched skin. Not trees alone, but caves, cliffs, night air. Its wing, flexible and dynamic, responds to airflow in real time. A bat can adjust camber, the curve of its wing, during each beat. The wing bends and twists, contracts and extends. Unlike birds, bats use their entire hand to fly. Each finger traces a different line through the air, measuring angles, pressures, trajectories. It is not just flapping, it is sculpting motion. And then there are gliders, flying squirrels, colugos, frogs that sail from tree to tree. Their wings are not wings, but parachutes of skin stretched between limbs. They cannot rise, but they can fall with control. The angles of their launch, the tilt of their body, the way they spread their legs, all are calculations. Some turn midair. Some extend tails for balance. They do not fly, but they understand gravity. Their math is descent softened. Seeds do it too. The Javan cucumber seed spins like a helicopter blade, designed to slow its fall and increase the area it may land upon. Its shape is thin, wide, slightly curved, enough to catch air and spiral downward. Engineers have studied this seed to design drones. Nature had already solved the problem of stable descent long before humans named it. Insects in all their variety reveal the range of flight's equations. Some have 2 wings, some 4. Some link their wings together with hooks, others flap out of phase. Beetles hide theirs beneath hardened shells and release them like folding fans. Flies reduce one pair of wings to tiny gyroscopic sensors called halters, allowing stunning precision in midair. Each choice reflects trade-offs: strength versus speed, lift versus control. Even the invisible aspects of flight are counted. Hummingbirds time their wing beats to the resonance frequency of flower petals. The pressure of their hovering creates microvortices that help extract nectar. Their tongues are not straws, but pumps triggered by capillary action, another small equation nested within the larger one. Every part of their body serves the math of motion and fuel. Flight is hungry. Energy must be burned quickly and constantly. Muscles must contract thousands of times a minute. Oxygen must be delivered at high speed. Birds have air sacs that move air in one direction, a flow-through system more efficient than lungs alone. Their hearts beat fast. Their metabolism races. Flight is not only beauty, it is cost, paid with every flap. And yet it's sustained. Not endlessly, but long enough to cross oceans, to navigate storms, to migrate thousands of miles. The Arctic tern travels from pole to pole and back, tracing a path that covers the globe. The monarch butterfly makes a multi-generational journey across a continent. No individual knows the whole route, but each inherits a piece of the map, a collective algorithm, a living equation passed forward in wings. Even at rest, wings are still calculating. A bird on a branch tucks its feathers to conserve heat. A moth flattens its wings to blend into bark. An eagle stretches to dry after rain. Each movement is a response to temperature, to light, to threat. The wing is not idle. It is always adjusting, always tuned. And in that tuning is a deeper intelligence, not conscious in the way we define it, but no less real. The nervous system gathers wind speed, joint position, muscle tension, and delivers adjustments in milliseconds. Sensors on feathers detect turbulence. Muscles shift in response. A gust is not a surprise. It is a variable accounted for. We have tried to copy this. Airplanes, helicopters, drones, all born from our study of wings. But our machines lack the softness, the feedback, the seamless integration of muscle and memory. A bird does not recalculate in the way a computer does. It feels. It flows. The calculation is embodied. And yet we keep learning. Engineers mimic owls to create silent propellers. They model dragonfly wings to build hover-capable bots. They study bat joints to design foldable aircraft. Our technology bends closer to nature, not to surpass it, but to understand it better. We follow the same numbers. We retrace the spiral. Because at the heart of every wing, whether feathered, scaled, or skinned, is the same truth. Flight is not defiance. It is obedience to the deeper rules of air and motion. It is submission to the pull of gravity, met with just enough lift to rise. Not forever, but long enough to cross a river, to reach a flower, to return home. And so each time a creature leaps into the sky, it carries within it the same quiet math, one that does not boast but proves itself with every beat. A whisper of balance, a curve of pressure, a path written not in ink but in air. As we watch wings rise into the open air, we begin to understand that their beauty is not just visual, it is structural, mathematical, rhythmic. A swallow weaving through wind is not improvising. It is executing a precise ballet shaped by evolution's equations. Each shift in feather, each tilt of body, responds to forces we cannot see but that the bird senses like second nature. It is not freedom without form. It is freedom born from form. To fly is not to escape the world, but to move within it differently, to understand its rules through motion. In falcons, speed meets precision. As they dive, their wings tuck in tightly, reducing drag and guiding the body into a perfect teardrop shape. At over 200 miles per hour, even the slightest tilt shifts trajectory. The falcon does not think through these adjustments. It lives them. Its tail feathers act like rudders, its eyes lock onto prey, its muscles fire in patterns that have been practiced since the first of its kind launched into the wind. The dive is a computation, gravity, velocity, lift, resistance, answered in real time by muscle and instinct. In contrast, vultures glide with stillness. With wings spread wide and feathers tipped like fingers, they ride thermal currents. These invisible rivers of rising warm air lift them without effort. By circling within the column, adjusting wing angles only slightly, the bird stays aloft for hours, barely flapping. This is energy conservation at its finest, a slow, spiraling agreement with the sky. They follow thermals the way ships follow tides. This too is math. This too is mastery. Even creatures who do not fly in the open air carry echoes of these patterns. Penguins, flightless on land, use their wings to fly underwater. The same structure, slightly modified, slices through a different medium. The flippers rotate and sweep, creating lift in water just as feathers do in air. Flight is not bound to sky. It is the ability to push against a fluid, to use shape and motion to move where gravity does not want you to go. The ocean, too, is a sky. The same applies to fish like flying fish, who leap from the water and glide for tens of meters. Their pectoral fins, expanded into wing-like blades, allow them to skip across the surface, escaping predators. The body curves upward, the tail slaps down for one last burst of lift, and then silence as they coast on the curve of their own momentum. No engine, no correction, just trajectory calculated at takeoff. Nature's algorithms do not waste. A butterfly's wing, fragile though it seems, is covered in microscopic scales that overlap like shingles. These scales aren't only colorful. They alter airflow, reduce turbulence, and sometimes serve as solar panels, helping to regulate body temperature. Even the color has purpose. Some hues come not from pigment but from structure, tiny ridges that bend light in precise ways. What looks like magic is diffraction, built from geometry. Some birds molt feathers in a specific order so as not to disrupt flight. Others time their migrations with the changing wind. In the Andes, condors use mountain updrafts to glide without flapping for hours. In the Arctic, snow buntings travel by wind corridors that are invisible to the eye but known to the body. These patterns are not mapped in books. They are written in air, in experience, in flesh. And when a creature lands, be it softly on a branch or skimming across the water, the wing's job is not done. It folds, it tucks, it rests, but it remembers. Tendons recoil, muscles reset, feathers realign. Even in stillness, the preparation for the next launch begins. The body recalibrates. The math persists. We too have begun to mimic. Glider planes borrow from the albatross. Helicopter blades echo dragonfly wings. Wind turbines use the curve of a bird's wing to harvest power from air. Even our dreams of spaceflight return to these same shapes, curved for lift, sharp for speed. We send machines aloft, but we still trace the wings that came before us. But flight is not just physics. It is time. It is timing. A bird must know when to take off, when thermals rise, when predators sleep, when food blooms. A miscalculation can mean starvation. A premature migration can mean death. These choices are not made with charts, but with memory stored in the body, the senses, the lineage. A wisdom of when, not just how. Even when injured, a bird will adjust its flight. A missing feather changes the balance. The muscles compensate. The pattern adapts. Flight does not break. It bends. It reconfigures. It writes a new solution with the parts that remain. That is the quiet brilliance of nature's code, not its perfection, but its resilience. And when the time for flight ends, when an aging bat no longer lifts from its perch, when a butterfly rests for the final time, the wings still hold their stories. Worn edges tell of winds survived. Faded colors speak of sunlight traced. The shape, the curve, the span, all remain as evidence. Proof that this creature once lifted itself into a space not meant for bodies, and made it home. So when you see a bird above, or a moth at your window, or a dragonfly hovering over a pond, remember, you are not witnessing randomness. You are witnessing design in motion, a balance of forces invisible, measured in every beat. Flight is not a miracle. It is the expression of laws, obeyed so beautifully they look like magic. And perhaps that is the secret, that beauty, when refined by purpose, becomes invisible code. That every wing is a notebook of old formulas, remembered, refined, replayed. That in every rise and glide and sudden dive, there is an answer, not to a question we've asked, but to one the wind asked long ago. The hidden math of wings is not lost. It is happening right now above your head, in the hush between each beat, in the silence of the air that holds them. Beneath your feet, beneath the moss and roots and fallen leaves, the earth is not silent. It hums, not with noise we can hear, but with signals and pulses, with rhythms too slow or too small for human ears. The soil holds more than minerals and moisture. It holds memory. It holds frequency. In the darkness underground, where light has never reached, life moves to a pattern, a deep code of vibrations, chemical trails, electrical signals. The ground is alive, not just with crawling things, but with information. And every root, every worm, every grain of loam listens. Start with the roots. A seedling doesn't grow randomly. Its root pushes downward, sensing gravity, and spreads outward toward water, but even more, it senses vibration. When water trickles through soil, it makes sound, a soft ultrasonic whisper. Roots lean toward it, not toward moisture directly, but toward the frequency of flow. This is called hydrotropism, and it is more than thirst. It is listening. The root hears the water before it tastes it. And roots do more than hear. They speak. They send out pulses of electricity as they grow, minute currents that travel from cell to cell. These signals guide direction, trigger responses to obstacles, coordinate growth. When a root hits a stone, it doesn't simply stop. It probes, pauses, reroutes. A living decision shaped by feedback. Some scientists call it a form of intelligence. Others call it algorithm. But deep underground, the decisions are always being made. Fungi hear it too. Mycorrhizal fungi, which connect to plant roots in silent partnership, use electrical signals to coordinate their spread. They form vast underground webs, sharing nutrients and information. When one root is injured, the fungi can signal others. When one plant has more sugar than it needs, the fungus redirects it to a neighbor. This is not generosity. It is balance. A soil-wide network tuning itself moment by moment. Beneath a forest floor, these mycorrhizal threads stretch for kilometers. Some connect hundreds of trees. The trees, in turn, release chemicals through their roots, not only to feed the fungi but to signal kin. A mother tree can favor her own offspring. An injured tree can warn others. These messages travel in waves, not just through chemical gradients, but through timed pulses of frequencies of defense, of hunger, of help. And still deeper, earthworms move through the soil, reshaping it. Their passage leaves tunnels that breathe air into the dark. Their castings enrich the earth with nutrients, but even they respond to frequency. Vibrations from above, like the steps of predators or the falling of rain, send messages down the column of earth. The worm feels, interprets, reacts. The soil is not still, it is reactive. Even bacteria beneath the soil operate with timing. Some release antibiotics when they sense crowding. Others change behavior when population reaches a certain point, a process called quorum sensing. It's not speech, but it is communication. One microbe releases a signal, another detects it. Together, they decide to grow, to wait, to fight. Each chemical pulse is a note in the song of survival. And then there is the soil itself, the non-living particles that cradle life. Clay holds onto ions and slowly releases them like a memory trickling back. Sand drains quickly, letting roots know where water won't last. Loam balances both, a medium for conversation. The pH level of soil affects what messages can pass, what nutrients can be taken. Even the shape of particles, round, jagged, layered, affects how signals move. When rain falls, it doesn't just soak, it carries messages downward. Temperature, acidity, trace elements all are encoded in droplets. Roots detect these changes instantly. A shift in calcium or phosphorus alters root behavior. New hairs form. Growth shifts direction. It is not instinct, it is response. The root listens and changes. In deserts, the frequencies are slower. Cacti roots grow only when there's a real promise of water. Their spread is calculated, cautious. In wetlands, the story is faster. Reeds grow in pulses, responding to flood and drought. Mangroves filter salt and breathe through aerial roots, each pore opening and closing in time with tide. Even underwater, the soil listens. And where humans tread, the soil records. A single step compresses particles, shifts moisture, alters the air flow. Roots sense this compaction. Fungi withdraw, microbes shift. The footprint fades, but the echo lingers. The soil remembers disturbance. It heals slowly if allowed. If not, it changes. Frequencies grow distorted, signals fray. Plants grown in music, literal external music, have been shown to grow differently. Some researchers play classical compositions, others tones at specific hertz. The results are not fully understood, but something responds. Roots grow longer, leaves broaden. Frequency touches more than the ear. It touches life. In volcanoes, soil is shaped by heat, charged by minerals. Life returns in slow waves, pioneer species tuning themselves to ash and sulfur. In tundras, the freeze-thaw rhythm pulses through the permafrost, a seasonal metronome guiding moss and lichen. In all places, frequency moves not always as sound, but as pressure, heat, rhythm. And when we plant, dig, walk, or build, we become part of that frequency. Our tools send vibrations. Our bodies press patterns. Our actions ripple downward through the root fungi microbe network. The soil does not judge, but it does record. And when it is left alone long enough, it recalibrates. It sings again. Because beneath the surface, in the quiet dark, there is music, not played but lived, not heard but felt, a language of growth, decay, birth, stillness. Every root and worm and cell moves to its tempo, and even though we do not hear it, we walk on its rhythm every day. Move closer now into the silence beneath the forest floor, where the frequencies deepen and the code thickens like roots in wet soil. A tree, standing tall above, is not just anchored into the ground. It is plugged into a vast network of messages, rhythms, and agreements. Its roots pulse with slow electrical signals, measurable not in seconds but in hours. The current moves from tip to stem, triggered by light above or nutrients below. The tree is not waiting, it is computing. Each signal is part of a decision: to grow, to rest, to lean, to branch. Around it, fungi reach out like wires, mapping connections from one root to the next. Mycelium, the thread-like part of a fungus, can grow in precise directions, seeking chemical cues following patterns of decay and life. Where two strands meet, they sometimes fuse, sharing not only nutrients but electrical signals. This is not thought as we know it, but it is something close, a network of decisions made in the dark, constantly adapting. Some call it the Wood Wide Web, but it is older than the internet. It is nature's original frequency. And still, deeper layers hum with life. Protozoa hunt bacteria, their movements sparking brief microcurrents in the fluid between particles. Nematodes slide silently through pores in the soil, their nerves firing in rhythmic patterns. Some microbes even release gases that other microbes detect: a breath of nitrogen here, a puff of carbon dioxide there. These gases spread, not randomly, but in waves shaped by temperature and air pressure. The information is not written but dispersed. It is not archived but passed forward. A single drop of rain falling onto dry soil is not just absorbed, it is heard. The sudden moisture causes a surge in microbial activity, spores awaken, dormant cells begin to divide, roots shift, signals increase. The soil goes from stillness to motion, from sleep to message. And it does this each time rain falls, remembering the timing, the saturation, the depth. It doesn't flood unless past patterns suggest safety. Even in mud, there is memory. In farmlands plowed and planted and watered, these frequencies change. Tilled earth breaks fungal threads. Compaction crushes air pockets. Fertilizers alter the chemical song. The roots grow, but the conversation grows quiet. There are fewer signals, less harmony. Crops may thrive for a season, but the deeper system frays. That's why regenerative farmers now aim to restore the rhythm, leaving soil unturned, planting cover crops, rotating growth. The goal is not just food, it's soundness. A return to pulse. Grasses move differently than trees. Their roots are fine, fast, shallow. They track quick signals: rainfall, grazing, fire. When cut or chewed, they send out volatiles through the air and pulses through the ground. The grass knows. It regrows based on pressure, light, and loss. Prairies, which seem flat and open, are orchestras of recovery. After a burn, signals explode through the soil, seeds sprout in coordinated waves, roots regrow with urgency, microbes reassemble. Restoration is not chaos. It is frequency responding to flame. In salt flats and alkaline basins, microbial mats form layered colonies, each stratum tuned to a different wavelength of light. Some absorb blue, others red, others near-infrared. Each layer communicates with the ones above and below, passing sugars, ions, and signals. These structures have existed for billions of years. They are not primitive. They are perfectly tuned. Earth's oldest frequencies live here in shallow water beneath silent sun. And even rocks, thought to be still, participate. Crystals in certain minerals can respond to pressure with tiny electrical charges, piezoelectricity. As roots grow and press against quartz or feldspar, microscopic voltages are created. It's possible, some scientists say, that plants respond to these signals. They may help roots detect depth, direction, or danger. Even the stone hums in its own slow way. In urban soil, the frequencies shift again. Pavement alters water flow. Pollution introduces unfamiliar chemicals, but even here life adjusts. Some fungi detoxify metals, some bacteria eat oil. Roots avoid heavy metals by following signals away from danger. The ground remembers not just life but harm, and even from harm it learns. Night brings its own tempo. Without the sun, photosynthesis stops, but below-ground rhythms continue. Some roots pulse with growth only in darkness. Some microbes are more active at night, using oxygen differently. Earthworms surface under moonlight, then retreat as vibrations warn of birds. The frequency of night is quieter, slower, but no less intricate. Sleep is not stillness. It is the reshuffling of code. And all around the roots, ants and beetles and burrowing creatures move in spirals and loops. Their paths aerate soil, mix nutrients, open passageways. Each tunnel is part of the soil's architecture, not designed but evolved, not imposed but discovered. Each movement sends ripples. Each step is part of the pattern. Even the decay of the dead feeds into this frequency. A fallen leaf breaks down in layers, each consumed by a different organism. Fungi digest cellulose. Bacteria follow behind. The enzymes they release act as signals, calling others to join. The breakdown is timed. If it's too fast, nutrients are lost. Too slow, and growth halts. Decomposition is not rot. It is release, a long exhale of information. And so the soil is never silent. It is layered in messages. From the slow reach of a root to the pulse of a fungus to the breath of a microbe, every action follows frequency. Every part listens. Every part answers. There is no central control, no single conductor, only coordination, only rhythm, only life answering life. The story of the soil does not end in darkness. It rises slowly, invisibly into the plants above, into the food we eat, into the air we breathe. The signals beneath our feet shape what grows above our heads. A tree's health, a flower's bloom, a harvest's sweetness, all are echoes of frequencies long ago set in motion underground. And though we may never hear them with our ears, they resonate in our lives. Each fruit carries the memory of the soil. Each petal is a response to a rhythm rooted below. In orchards where the land is gently tended, fruit ripens not just from sun and rain but from the silent harmony beneath. Roots stretch, not randomly but toward specific balances of minerals. Microbial populations fluctuate with the seasons, with the phases of the moon, with the hum of insects. Some farmers walk barefoot through their fields, not to measure but to feel. They speak of the soil as living, not as metaphor but as experience. They know when the soil is tired. They know when it sings. And there are places where the music of the ground is especially strong. Sacred groves, ancient forests, undisturbed meadows. These ecosystems have tuned themselves over centuries. Their networks are dense, their signals rich. A single tree might hold connections to dozens of species below: fungi, bacteria, invertebrates. When we step into these places, we are not stepping onto Earth alone. We are entering a conversation. We are walking across memory. Science, too, is beginning to listen more carefully. Sophisticated sensors now detect the faint electrical pulses of roots. Microphones pick up subsonic vibrations of plant movement. Soil biologists speak of rhizosphere signaling, the space around a root where information pulses outward, influencing what can grow nearby. Even artificial intelligence is being used to analyze patterns in microbial communication, revealing correlations between frequency and fertility, between rhythm and resilience. There is still much we do not know, but what is becoming clear is that soil is not passive. It is responsive. It is not just a medium, it is a participant, and it responds best not to force but to relationship. The more we harmonize with its cycles, planting in time, composting gently, stepping softly, the stronger the signals grow. And in this relationship, time plays a central role. A forest does not expect a tree to grow in one season. The soil's frequencies operate on slow scales: days, months, years. Mycorrhizal networks can take decades to mature. Soil carbon builds over generations. Microbial communities fluctuate with long weather patterns. The soil remembers, but it remembers slowly. To listen is to wait. Even in death, the cycle continues. A fallen animal becomes nutrients. Its body, through decomposition, sends signals to the soil, rich in nitrogen, ripe for microbial bloom. Plants nearby respond. They grow differently. The forest absorbs the body not with haste but with grace. It is not waste. It is message. It is transformation. Humans, too, return to the earth. Our bodies rejoin the cycle. Our bones rest in the same ground that once fed our food. In some cultures, trees are planted atop graves and families watch as the roots grow strong, fed by memory, fed by love. The tree is not haunted. It is nourished. It carries forward what once was in silence. Soil scientists now measure respiration, the breath of the ground. They track CO2 flux, microbial heat, enzymatic change. And still, the mystery remains. The numbers confirm what intuition has long known: that the ground lives, that it speaks, that it adapts. And in a world of noise, the soil asks us to be quiet, to pause, to kneel, to press a hand to the earth and feel its warmth, to bury a seed and wait knowing that something will respond, not instantly, not loudly, but certainly. That seed will root toward water it cannot see. It will stretch in the direction of nutrients it does not understand. It will find companions, fungi, microbes, minerals, and it will remember their signals. When dry times come, it will contract. When abundance returns, it will open again. All without eyes, all without ears, all with frequency. We live on top of this world, but we are not separate from it. Our health, our breath, our food, our peace, all begin in the soil. And the soil begins in rhythm, in pulses, in the soft communication of things unseen. So next time you step outside, remember what lies beneath. Not just dirt, not just roots, but a song. One that's been playing since the first moss touched stone, since the first fern pushed through ash, since the first drop fell and vanished underground. It's playing now beneath cities and deserts, under forests and gardens, beneath your house, beneath your feet. A hum, a beat, a pattern of life, the frequencies beneath the soil. And if you ever feel lost, you can return to it. Place your hand on the earth, breathe in, wait, and listen. High above the trees, beyond the swirl of clouds and the hush of the upper atmosphere, the stars stretch across the night in silent formation. They appear scattered, infinite, random. But they are not. Hidden in their glittering stillness are patterns older than memory, movements more precise than any clock. The sky is not chaos. It is choreography. The stars move to rhythms written in gravity, in light, in time. And for those who listen, truly listen, the heavens whisper equations that shape not only galaxies, but life on Earth below. Begin with the constellations. Though drawn from myth and imagination, their positions are real, their placement mathematical. The ancients traced lines between the stars not out of whimsy but from observation. Orion rises in winter, Scorpius rules the summer. The Big Dipper points to the North Star. These shapes guided journeys across oceans and deserts. They weren't decorations in the sky. They were maps fixed not by ink but by light years. But stars do not sit still. They drift ever so slowly, each moving in its own direction at its own speed. Over millennia, constellations change shape. The sky is fluid, but the fluidity follows pattern. A star's position can be predicted hundreds, even thousands of years in advance. This is proper motion, a slow ripple across the dome of night. And though it moves glacially, it never forgets its path. Then there are the planets, wandering stars as the ancients called them. Unlike the fixed stars, these bodies shift nightly against the backdrop of constellations. Venus, bright and low in the west. Jupiter, slow and stately. Mars, flickering red. Their paths are not circles, but ellipses, orbits shaped by gravity, described by Kepler's laws. A planet moves fastest at its closest approach to the sun, slower at its farthest. There is rhythm in this and reason. The moon, too, follows its own loop, 29.5 days from full to full. It pulls the tides, guides animal migration, stirs sap in trees. It lights paths and marks time. Its phases follow a simple cycle, waxing, full, waning, new, and yet the timing is so precise that ancient calendars were built around it. Farmers still plant by it. Sleep patterns shift with it. Somewhere deep in our biology, we are timed to the moon. But deeper still, the stars themselves pulse, not with flickering light but with heartbeat-like rhythms. Cepheid variables, stars that brighten and dim with regular timing, serve as beacons for astronomers. Their pulsation period reveals their distance. They are cosmic lighthouses, blinking across vast space with messages shaped in heat and fusion. Their timing is so stable, so consistent, that we use them to measure the universe itself. Even the sun, that steady anchor of our days, is not unmoving. It rotates, it wobbles, it breathes. Its surface swirls with storms, its magnetic fields rise and fall in cycles. Sunspots come and go in roughly 11-year waves, and with them, shifts in solar wind, in auroras, in radio signals on Earth. Our technology, our weather, our mood, all tied subtly to the frequencies of a star. And beyond our sun, the galaxy itself spins. slowly, majestically. The Milky Way rotates, arms sweeping through space like the spiral of a great sea. Stars orbit the center where a black hole waits. This motion is not visible in a night or a year or a lifetime, but it exists, constant and vast. Our own solar system moves within this spiral, carried along like a leaf on a river. The galaxy remembers its path. Then come the pulsars, dead stars that spin with incredible speed, emitting beams of radiation that sweep across space like lighthouses. Some spin hundreds of times per second. Their pulses are so regular that we once mistook them for alien signals. We now use them to navigate spacecraft, to test the boundaries of physics. They are the most precise clocks known, better than any made by humans. Light itself, traveling across space, carries patterns. A star's spectrum reveals its composition, its age, its motion. The light spreads into rainbows, and from the gaps, absorption lines, we read its story. This is spectroscopy, the reading of starlight. It is like hearing a star's song and knowing its history from the notes it does not sing. And so the stars speak, not with words but with frequency, color, motion. They do not move randomly. They arc, they spiral, they pulse. Each action a response to mass, to distance, to gravity's quiet pull. And just as a pebble dropped in a pond sends ripples, so too do stars ripple space-time. Their movement warps the fabric around them. Einstein described it as curved space, mass bending the very geometry of the cosmos. Planets orbit not because they are pulled, but because they fall along curved paths in distorted space. Even light bends when it passes near a massive star. We see distant galaxies duplicated, smeared into arcs, gravitational lensing, a trick of physics that proves the rule: nothing travels unaffected. And yet from all this complexity comes pattern, predictable, observable, repeatable. The stars guide not only astronomers but birds in migration, turtles returning to beaches. Even dung beetles use the Milky Way to navigate. Life on Earth listens to the sky in ways we are only beginning to understand. Perhaps we, too, once followed those patterns more closely. We build observatories now, quiet places where lenses and mirrors track the movement of stars, where data is gathered, light curves, redshifts, pulse rates, and from that we learn the age of the universe, the composition of planets, the expansion of space. It all begins with rhythm. And in this rhythm there is beauty, not only in the night sky we see, but in the unseen precision beneath it, in the fact that stars do not burn out of rage but out of balance, that orbits are not accidents but answers, that the heavens, far from being silent, are filled with music, slow, mathematical, patient. The stars do not need us to watch them, but they keep shining, they keep circling, they keep humming their ancient frequencies into space. And if we lie still beneath them, if we breathe in rhythm with the dark, we may begin to hear it, the soft tick of cosmic time, guiding everything always. Let us drift further now, deeper into the slow spirals of the cosmos, where pattern takes on forms so vast they seem still, yet every corner hums with precise, persistent motion. The constellations we recognize are only temporary arrangements, their stars traveling at different speeds and directions through space. From our perspective, they seem permanent, but they are moving, drawing out lines we cannot follow with the eye alone. Over thousands of years, Orion's belt will bend. The Big Dipper's handle will twist, and yet within that change is stability. Stars trace arcs through time, each obeying laws that stretch across galaxies. Consider binary stars, two suns locked in orbit around each other, their mass dictating their dance. One speeds forward, the other pulls back, and together they swing through space like partners in a slow cosmic waltz. The distance between them, the time it takes to complete one revolution, the gravitational forces exchanged, all of it follows rules that can be written, predicted, charted. And sometimes, those stars pass in front of one another from our view, causing their combined light to dim and brighten in regular cycles. These eclipsing binaries whisper a pulse into the night, marking time not in seconds, but in centuries. Some systems contain 3 stars, or even more intricate orbital relationships that seem unstable at first glance, yet hold together through precise gravitational balancing acts. Their paths are not random. They are solutions to equations too elegant to be made by hand. The universe, it seems, prefers harmony over disorder, complexity over chaos. These multi-star systems, vast and invisible to our unaided eyes, draw their own constellations, ones of motion rather than position. Our own solar system holds patterns layered within patterns. The inner planets orbit swiftly, the outer ones slowly. Yet they influence one another subtly, nudging orbits, syncing rotations, tilting axes. Venus rotates backward. Uranus spins sideways. Neptune's orbit resonates with Pluto's, a silent agreement that keeps them from collision. These resonances, often in ratios like 2, 3, or 3, 5, echo the same mathematical harmonies found in music. The spheres, quite literally, sing. Even the tilt of Earth, the reason we have seasons, wobbles slowly over time in a pattern called axial precession. This wobble completes one cycle every 26,000 years, shifting our view of the stars and altering the timing of solstices. Ancient skywatchers tracked these changes, carving stone calendars and aligning temples to match the heavens. They may not have known the cause, but they knew the rhythm. Their knowledge was not guesswork. It was memory, held in stone and passed through generations. Meteor showers, too, are not surprises. They are scheduled. Each year, as Earth travels through the remnants of ancient comets, it meets trails of dust left long ago. These particles burn in our atmosphere, appearing as sudden streaks of light, but they arrive on time, guided by the orbit of the comet that left them. The Perseids, the Leonids, the Geminids, all are events born of pattern. Even fleeting fire across the sky is part of a larger clock. The moon's gravity not only pulls our tides but slows Earth's spin. Each day lengthens imperceptibly by milliseconds. In turn, the moon drifts away from us at about 3.8 centimeters per year. These movements, though slow, are permanent. We measure them with lasers bouncing off mirrors left by astronauts. The distance between worlds is not fixed. It is a dance in slow motion, a pattern of parting written in rock and time. Beyond our solar system, exoplanets orbit other stars, their presence revealed not by sight but by pattern, tiny dips in starlight, or the wobble of a star shifting ever so slightly as a planet tugs on it. These are not visible movements. They are mathematical fingerprints, matched to models, confirmed through repetition. We find worlds not by seeing them, but by listening to the regularity they impose on their suns. And even time itself is shaped by cosmic patterns. The second, as we define it today, comes from the vibration of a cesium atom, but for centuries before, time was counted by the motion of stars across the sky. The earliest clocks were sundials and star charts, tools not to measure randomness but to record consistency. Even now, atomic time must be reconciled with Earth's rotation, which drifts slightly. We insert leap seconds when needed. We bend our time to match the cosmos. Light takes time to travel. When we look at stars, we look into the past. Some starlight has been traveling for hundreds, thousands, millions of years before it reaches our eyes. What we see now happened long ago. And still, that light carries information, the star's temperature, its chemical makeup, its motion. The longer the light has traveled, the more it stretches redshift, a signal that the universe is expanding. This expansion is not haphazard. It follows equations we can write, test, refine. It is pattern on the scale of everything. Even the empty space between galaxies is not truly empty. It ripples with cosmic background radiation, the leftover heat from the birth of the universe. These microwaves form a pattern too, a snapshot of the cosmos 13.8 billion years ago. From that pattern, we derive shape, density, age. The universe remembers how it began, and that memory pulses through every corner of space. And still new stars are born. In vast clouds of gas and dust, gravity draws particles together. As they collapse, heat builds. Eventually, fusion begins. A star ignites. Its brightness increases in a curve, predictable, observable. Young stars follow a pattern of growth. Older stars follow a path of cooling and expansion. Some die gently, fatting into white dwarfs. Others explode as supernovae, leaving behind neutron stars or black holes. Even death follows the equation. Through all this, we remain small but not apart. Our atoms came from ancient stars. The carbon in our bones, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, all forged in stellar hearts long gone. The stars do not just guide us, they made us, and in that we carry their patterns forward. When we gaze at the sky, we are not looking up, we are looking back, and forward, and through. We are reading a book written in points of light, in arcs of motion, in waves of invisible pull. A book without pages but full of language, and every night it continues. Now let us rest beneath the night sky, not as observers alone, but as part of the very patterns we watch. Above, the stars continue their quiet drift, each pulse of light an echo from a place we will never touch. Yet still their rhythm reaches us. Our hearts beat to internal clocks shaped in part by light and dark, by the slow rotation of our planet beneath the sky. Our circadian rhythms, the rise and fall of hormones, the urge to sleep, to wake, to eat, all are tuned to celestial pattern. The stars are not distant, they are inscribed in us. Even the calendar that orders our days is born of the heavens. A year is not arbitrary. It is the Earth's return to the same place in its orbit around the sun. The months once mirrored the cycles of the moon. Equinoxes mark balance when day and night are equal. Solstices mark extremes, the longest and shortest days. These celestial hinges shape culture, ritual, history. The stars gave us time, and we shaped our lives around their promises. In every culture, the sky has been both map and mirror. The Babylonians, the Mayans, the Chinese, the Polynesians all traced patterns through stars, crafting calendars and compasses from their shifting forms. Farmers watched the heavens to know when to sow and when to harvest. Sailors followed the stars across empty seas. Prophets read omens in eclipses. Poets sang of constellations. The sky was not distant, it was divine. And though today we may name stars with catalog numbers or spectral codes, the awe remains. To stand beneath a dark sky and see the band of the Milky Way is to remember something beyond language, a recognition, a return. These lights are not just points. They are continuity. They are the same stars that look down on every ancestor, on every story. The same patterns, the same paths, written in a language unchanged. In our science, we continue the reading. We now know that gravitational waves ripple through the cosmos, distortions in spacetime caused by colliding black holes or neutron stars. These waves stretch and compress the fabric of reality itself. Detected by instruments sensitive enough to measure shifts smaller than an atom, these are the newest messages from the stars. Not light, not sound, but tremors of being. The universe speaks even through silence. And yet in the midst of such scale, pattern still serves purpose. The study of orbital mechanics, of star formation, of cosmic expansion, all relies on mathematics. The same equations that guide a falling apple guide a spinning planet. Gravity does not change with distance. Only our perspective does. The stars obey the same laws we do. They are not other. They are part of us. Even in chaos, pattern emerges. The birth of a galaxy full of collisions and collapse results in spiral arms. The death of a star, violent and blinding, settles into new balance, a nebula, a remnant, a seed. The universe learns as it goes. Every event builds the possibility for the next. What seems random is often just unread. Given time, the shapes appear. And here on Earth we respond. Artists paint stars. Musicians compose songs to their rhythm. Architects align buildings with solstices. Children wish on them. Lovers name them. Scientists catalog them. The stars shape dreams as much as they shape data. They are above us, but they are within us. At the atomic level, we are made from stardust, a phrase often repeated but deeply true. Supernovae scattered the elements that make our bodies. Without them, there would be no life. We are not born of the Earth alone. We are born of explosions, of fusion, of the long breath of galaxies, and still that breath continues. New stars form, new systems spin. Somewhere, perhaps, life begins again. When we build telescopes, we are not just reaching outward. We are reaching back into time, collecting the oldest light to understand how things began. The James Webb Space Telescope, peering into the redshifted past, sees galaxies as they were billions of years ago. The patterns remain spiral, elliptical, clustered. The forms repeat. The frequencies echo. And in these echoes we find orientation, not just in space but in meaning. To know the stars is to place ourselves within a frame too vast to own but not too vast to belong. We are not lost in the universe. We are part of its language, its story, its song. So tonight when the sky clears, look up, not to find answers but to recognize rhythm. Trace the curve of a planet's path. Watch how the moon leans into fullness. Find the North Star and feel your place. Somewhere a galaxy spins. Somewhere a star pulses. Somewhere a comet carves its curve across silence. And here under it all you breathe. You listen. You remember. The stars are not watching. They are waiting for you to notice that you are made of their math, that your heartbeat is just another pattern, that your life, your path, your rise and rest is part of the same design. Because even now, as you lie in the quiet, the patterns guide the stars, and the stars in return guide you.